Celestina Christmas, or Summer, was 28 years old when she stood before magistrates at the Central Criminal Court, known as the Old Bailey, in London, charged with the murder of her daughter. Looking much younger than her years, it proved to be no sway for the judges or the jury. Celestina Elizabeth Christmas had been born on 1st July 1827 to William Christmas, a silversmith, and his wife Elizabeth. The family lived at King's Square in Islington. She was well educated and musical, but at the age of 17 fell pregnant out of wedlock and gave birth to her daughter on Saturday 20th December 1845 at the home of Thomas and Julia Harrington at 1 Grove Lane in Hackney. She named her baby Marion Celestina, and the little girl lived with the Harringtons at their various homes, ending up at Park Street in Hackney Road until she was 10 years old. Soon after the birth, Celestina returned to the family home at King's Square. She paid the woman 10 shillings a month for the upkeep of her daughter during that time. On Saturday, 12th August 1854, Celestina married Prussian engraver Charles Summer at St Mary's Church in Islington. On Thursday, 7th February 1856, 18 months after the marriage, Celestina went to Mrs Harrington's and picked up her daughter, as she could no longer afford the 2 shillings and 6pence a week she had to pay her, taking her to her sister's house at Murray Street, New North Road. Little Celestina remained there until the night of the murder, Saturday, 16th February. She told her sister she'd found a place for her with a greengrocer's. They had left in such a hurry, the little girl never had her shawl or bonnet with her. She was taken back to the Summers' home at 18 Linton Street. No sooner was Celestina back at the house than she led the girl down to one of the 2 basement cellars, where she cut her throat. On Sunday, 17th February at around 4:30 p.m, Police Sergeant Edward Townsend had gone to their house with Inspector Hatton, following a tip-off from the live-in maid, Rachel Munt's sister. He saw Celestina coming up the kitchen stairs, and when she saw them, asked them what they wanted. He replied that they wanted to look in the cellar, and she asked, "Look in my cellar? Good God, what for?" He didn't reply directly, but said he wanted her to go with them. Summer, meanwhile, was in the parlour and joined them as they descended the steps. The cellar door was partially open, and he saw the body of the dead girl. A search of the house was made, and in the upstairs front room, a black gown with spots of blood that had been partially washed out of it was found under a bed, along with blood-stained stockings. Blood was also found on the kitchen door and on a wafer box. A spot of blood was also found on the pillow on the servant's bed. On Monday, 18th February, Celestina and her husband were brought before Magistrate William Corrie at the Clerkenwell Police Court, charged with the murder of a female child, name unknown. Both, according to reports, appeared quite unconcerned by the charges laid before them. Soon, Summer was released, but Celestina was remanded in custody. The name of the unknown child on the indictment didn't last long, however, as she was soon identified by Mrs. Harrington. 14-year-old Rachel Munt told the police she'd lived as the couple's live-in servant, and on the night of the murder, she'd been sitting up busy making herself a satin apron in the kitchen, which doubled up as her sleeping quarters. Celestina had gone out, then came back some time later with the girl, and had called out to find if the maid was asleep. The maid hadn't replied. However, she heard what happened next. Her mistress, having changed her dress, took the girl into the kitchen and told her to come down here. The girl did so. Then Celestina went into the cellar, telling the girl to go with her. However, the girl hesitated at the kitchen door. The maid said she then heard Celestina asking the girl what she was afraid of, to which she replied, "I am not afraid, but it is a strange place to take me." They then made their way into the area, when the maid then heard the girl say, "Someone wants to cut my throat." Celestina was then heard to say, "Suppose I was to cut it." The girl, then realising what was about to happen, said, "Oh, you're going to kill me," then screamed, "Murder." She repeated this several times and said, "The devil will take you. The devil will take you. You will kill me. You will kill me. I am dying. I am dying." To which Celestina was heard to say a few times simply, "Hush." The maid heard the girl make a horrible noise as though breathing hard, while her mistress told her victim, "Hush, hush." Celestina then blew out the candle, entered the kitchen and walked about in the dark for a few minutes, saying to herself, "I will kill you. You are a liar and you are a thief." She then picked up the matchbox, lit the candle and went into the cellar once more. She was there for quite some time, but the maid never heard the girl speak during all that time. Soon after this, Celestina went back to the kitchen, closing the cellar door behind her, then headed upstairs. The maid knew the girl as she'd seen her about a month beforehand. She had opened the front door, and her mistress told the girl to wipe her feet and to go into the parlour. At this point, the girl and Celestina passed Rachel on their way out and returned some time later with a box with 3 clasps. When Celestina had gone out with the girl, she had a large stone with her, wrapped in cloth. During the time of the murder, Summer was out of the house and only returned at 1 o'clock in the morning. The police surgeon, George Coward, looked at the body of the girl in situ and found that her throat had been cut in such a way that she couldn't have done it herself. There were 3 large wounds from the back to the front of the neck, as well as flesh wounds on her face, left hand and left arm. On Thursday, 10th April, before Justices Sir Cresswell and Sir Charles Compton, Celestina appeared at the Old Bailey, charged with the wilful murder of her daughter. Celestina didn't look her age, but much younger, and was described as short in stature, slim with a fair complexion and fair hair. Mr. Bodkin and Mr. Clark acted on behalf of the Crown, while William Ballantyne was her defence counsel. The maid, Rachel, gave her testimony to the court, adding that after her mistress had pulled the blind down in the kitchen, she had tapped her on the shoulder to waken her. Rachel, she called, but the maid pretended to be asleep. Then a discussion took place about soap, and Celestina asked if there was any hot water in the boiler, and when she said there was, Celestina said she wanted to wash her hands. She then told Rachel it was late and she was going to bed, but Rachel heard her in the back kitchen, washing something, for around half an hour, before she went upstairs to her bedroom. Rebecca Donnelly, the searcher at the Hoxton police station, said that she found blood on Celestina's petticoat from the knee down. Celestina claimed it had come when she had used her petticoat when she'd had a nosebleed, and throughout denied she had anything to do with the murder. According to Joseph Howe, a police constable at Clerkenwell, Celestina had told him the dead girl was her dead brother's child. Not wishing to put her into service, she had paid 10 shillings a month out of her salary as a music teacher. She then rambled on about Shakespeare's plays, Hamlet and Richard III, before saying, "I did it. It is no use telling a lie about it. I did not know what to do for the best." During all this time, she was sitting with her hands in her lap. Ballantyne tried to argue that at the time of the murder, Celestina was not in a state of mind to be responsible for her acts, or that she had not acted with malice, which the law required for a murder sentence to be passed. He hoped they would find her guilty of a lesser charge. Mr. Justice Compton summed up, and within minutes the jury returned the verdict of guilty. The judges placed the black caps on their heads and sentenced her to hang. However, her sentence was commuted, first to transportation, then to life imprisonment. After 6 months in Newgate Prison, she was transferred to the Millbank Prison in Westminster. On 26 December 1857, she was transferred to the Women's Prison at Brixton. Here her mental health deteriorated rapidly, so she was sent to the Fisherton House Lunatic Asylum near Salisbury, where she died on 11th April 1859.